You get a line, I'll get a pole, honey. You get a line, I'll get a pole, babe. You get a line, I'll get a pole, and we'll go fishing and crawdad hole, honey, baby mine. Hello, I'm Rick Stivers. I'd like to welcome you to Young Martin's Reels. Today's project is going to be this Penn 450 SS reel. SS stands for skirted spool. And this reel looks pretty daggone good right now. When I got it, it did not. It was missing about half of its paint. It was frozen. It didn't work. It needed new bearings. I put all new bearings in it. And I'm going to show you how to take it apart. And in the second half of the video, we'll reassemble it. So let's get started. And we're going to start off by taking off the handle. Then we're going to remove the spool. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is remove this side plate cover. This new camera location is not getting it done, I don't think. I have to hold it in my hand for you to be able to see it. And I stripped this reel all the way down and repainted it with epoxy paint. And I'm going to use this on my boat. And I put all new bearings in it. Okay, remove the side cover. There we go. And the bearing is maintained in there. And if you wanted to remove that, you would unscrew it from the side here, like so, and press this bearing out from the other side. I'm not going to take it out. You're going to see in a little bit what I did, put it back in. But that's how it came. That's how you would take it out. Now, the main gear will not come out at this point. You would want to take it out, but you can't. So what we're going to do is we're going to loosen these two screws until they're almost all the way out. And that one I took all the way out by accident. Let me put it back in a little bit. Okay. And then we'll rotate the axle shaft. And let's take this one out a little bit more. And there we go. That should be enough. There we go. And then pull the axle out, like so. And now we can take the main gear out. At this point, we can remove, I did end up taking that screw all the way out, didn't mean to. I'm gonna put it back in. I took them both all the way out. All right, well, so be it. There's the crosswind block removed. And the final piece down here would be the crosswind gear, like so. That brings us around to the rotor. And the rotor, we're going to take off this big nut in the front and lift the rotor out and off, like so. The pinion then falls out of the middle. Okay, and then these parts we were looking at, this is the anti-reverse dog and click ratchet, like so. You can see how this works, and there's a spacer underneath it. The way this works is it rotates this way, this pulls this around, but when it goes back the other way, it pulls it in and locks it in like that. Okay, you'll see that when we install it back. Okay, and the only other things that we were going to need to do is we could take out these two screws right here and remove this bearing, take out this screw and remove this trip ramp, and then on this end we've got one screw on the end of this. You can take this screw out, pull off the knob and lift this out, and there would be your, and you're going to see all those parts out in just a little bit, but I'm not going to take them out because I think it's pretty self-explanatory how you go about doing it. So I'm not going to redo it all just for that. And then on this other side is the other bearing retainer. There it is right there. And you can just pop that one out from the inside. Okay? But I'm not going to go any further. I'm just going to put all this back together now. But that's what you needed to see. The other part would be this rotor, and you're going to see that in its completely disassembled glory, and we'll walk you through how to put it all back together. But basically all you're doing is taking out this screw, this screw over here, and that removes all the bail arm. And then we've got this screw right here. Under this screw is a Y spring that goes right here, or a wishbone spring. It goes right here. And then on this side over here, this is the one that gets complicated. You take this screw out and this screw out, and all these little parts come out, and there's a spring right down here that operates this lever. Now I'm going to tell you right now, I would highly suggest not removing this screw and taking this out. You can clean it mostly just by kind of spraying up underneath it with this off, spraying under it with WD-40, and keep blowing it out with an air compressor until it comes clean. I highly recommend not taking it apart. You'll see in my video in a moment what it takes to put it all back together. I don't recommend the average person do that. All right? So that's it. We're going to start this off by trying to assemble this rotor. And all these parts have been repainted. I stripped them down to bare metal and started over as they were kind of beat up and rough looking. And repaints don't bother me. So we're going to see if we can't start looking at putting this thing together. And I'm trying to spot an item that I'm missing from this reel. Oh, there they are. They're on there. Okay, so I'm not missing anything. All right, this is where this starts to go back together. Let's see, not this side, this side. Okay, this is a little bit tricky when we go to put this together. So it's got basically 4 parts over here. We have this spring, which I just got done picking back up out of the trash can. It shot across the room, went right into the trash can. We've got this trip lever, and this screw, and this cover plate, and this screw. This screw goes over there. Okay, all of these parts right here are going to fit right into here. Okay, let me turn on one more light. Since this thing is all black, we want to try to get as much light into this as we can. All right, we're going to start off by taking this spring and sitting this spring down in here. If you look, you've got this tag end here that points out off the side of the spring, and up here we've got the hook at the top. Okay, and we're going to sit this down inside here so that tag end goes into this little slot right there. You see that? Okay, and then the center of it wraps around this post. Okay, so we're going to start off by setting that into there. Getting that tag end to drop like that. Okay, the next part is going to be this one, and this has to come in like this. See the little hook right here? That's where that spring is going to hook into this piece. Okay, so we're going to set this here, get that hook to go on there, and now we've got to rotate this around. And it's going to hit this wall over here, so we have to be careful with it because we kind of have to get it to go past the wall like that. Up, but I'll let the spring get loose. Okay, so got to try it again. I did one of these yesterday, and it really wasn't pleasant trying to get it to go in. So let's try it again. Get the hook to go into the slot, like so. Now we've got to come around and get past the wall on this side over here. Okay, like that. And I'll let it go again. Okay, This, like I said, this is not real easy. Let's try it this way. Let's try hooking it this way with the piece already past the wall to begin with. See if that doesn't work better for us. Okay, now I've got it in. The spring is hooked. It's bringing it back. Okay, now we're going to turn this while I'm holding that there. I'm going to bring this up like this. And this piece now goes in. And we're going to swing this up past that. Drop this piece in. And the spring got off. This is by far my least favorite part of this reel. Nope. Well, I'm glad you're watching this. You get to see all the failures along with the successes. Okay, let's try it one more time. Now, I managed to do this on the SSG yesterday, and it worked fine. Okay, got that in place. Got this one in place. Okay. Now, I managed to get that hooked where it belongs, that hooked where it belongs. All those were where they belong. But what we're missing is some oil or grease. So let's go ahead and add a dab there. And we'll put a dab there. And now while all this is being held in place, I'm going to slide this cover back in over top of it like that. Okay. And now before this pops off, we're going to put this screw back in down here. Okay, now the longer of these two screws goes in up here. Like so. And now if we have this right, when we flip this lever here this way, like that, this should pop out down here. Like that. See that? And the spring is going to return it back to where it was. Okay, so we got that part done. Next to go in is going to be the bail trip lever. That's going to go over here on this side. Oh, sorry. This one goes over here. Like so. And it's just held, let's see, are these two screws the same? I believe they are. Yes, they are. So we'll go ahead and put one in. Okay. There we go. Now, see when this flips over? See how that trips that? When it comes down to this position, it pushes that out. There we go. That's the bail trip. Okay. The rest of the bail is going to go to the other side, and we will put that on so that, let's see here, it's going to go like this, but it has to be able, that's in the up position there. Okay, so this is the same either way, so it doesn't matter on this one. Let me clean this up a little bit. All right, this is our trip wire, our trip spring. I call it a Y spring. Okay, and we're gonna put one side of it in over here, like that. And I'm going to push it down to make sure that it's in the hole good. There we go. And then I'm going to put some grease back in here behind it to make sure that it's going to slide easily inside this chamber. And then we're going to put that spring into that hole like that. And then we've got to get this guy, this last of the screws, almost last of the big screws, to go in over here. And it will screw in like that. And now when this goes, it loads and unloads that spring. See there? That's our bail spring. And it happens to be one of my favorite designs. Okay, we're going to put this, let me clean this plate up. I thought I had all this stuff clean. Now we're ready to put the cover back on. It just slips into place here. And it should drop into that hole, which it's not doing so far. It's fighting me. Take it this way and see if that helps. There. Okay. Took me a minute to get it straight. All right. It's got that in. Now, the final thing to go on is going to be this roller and the bail wire. Okay. This one's going to sit up here. Now, this cup washer fits over here on the end like this. And then this screw goes through the arm, and we are slightly bent. So let's take a moment to fix this. Okay. See how I'm having to force this over? Well, this should lie naturally right there, nice and straight. If you leave it with this tension on it, it's going to put that tension against the sides, and it's going to keep it from being able to trip properly. Okay, so just kind of bend it slightly until it naturally sits right where it's supposed to. Okay, so we'll put the screw in. We'll slip the washer on. We're going to add some oil. Set this back up here. And get the screw going. And there we have a nice tripping bail. Okay, we're going to add a little oil here, a little oil here, a little oil over here, and a little under here. Okay, we'll exercise a little bit. There we go. Okay, that's got that together. And that was a large number of the parts that were on this reel. Okay, next we're going to see about assembling the body. Now, one of the parts that I didn't realize was on this reel until I went to strip it was this bushing right here. Okay, and I've got it in there. It's taken care of. It fell off while I was stripping it. When a wire brush hit it, it went flying. I had to go find it. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to insert this anti-reverse override down through here, and it goes through that bushing. Okay, like this. And what we've got to do is underneath here, there's a hole. Is that it there? Yeah, there's a hole. And in that hole is going to ride this spring right there. Okay, and what we've got to do is we'll have to get this spring to kind of drop down until it fits into where it has to go. Okay, so we'll set this in place. And I'm assuming it's going to be this corner right over here. Okay, that to start falling. Okay, and then the spring, of course, fell out of the hole. There we go. Got the spring back in the hole. All right, push this down over here. We're going to get it started in that bushing over there. There we go. Now, when this comes down, you got to get that spring to go into that corner right there. Like that. Okay. And as it goes into that corner, there we go. It's got to get past this edge right here. Okay. So what we're going to do, trying to come around to this side and see. Nope, we're not going to be able to get that handle on just yet. We want that handle to go on right there. Right there. Okay. We can go ahead and get the screw started. There we go. Now, as I pull this around, it's going to rotate this around like that. And now that allows that to go back down the rest of the way. See, this, it was sitting on top of the spring. Now that I've done that, we should be able to screw this down all the way down. Like that. Okay, I'm going to add a drop of oil here. I'm going to add a drop of oil over here. And a drop up here. And now this should flip back and forth, that eccentric. There we go. And that's what activates and deactivates your anti-reverse override. Now on this other side over here is where we're going to put a spring, bearing. And now I've replaced the original bearings that were in this with these sealed bearings. And now that I've painted the case, I got a little paint in there, which is going to make it a little harder for these to go in. And I used epoxy paint. I may have to press those in. I don't want to. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to get the epoxy paint out of the hole. I'll feel better if I do that. Okay. Let's go in here and just gently scrape the epoxy paint out of the hole that the bearing fits in. Okay, that's probably enough. There we go. Is it all the way down? Yes. Okay, and this is the side where the handle will not be, so we'll go ahead and put the bearing cover back on. There we go. That's a sealed bearing, so we don't need to try to worry about trying to oil it or anything. All right, the next thing we're going to do is install this trip lever over here, like so. And there's a screw for it. Let's go ahead and screw that down in there. And remember the little lever, it's stuck out inside here. When we flip this over, well, this is the trip lever, the ramp that's going to trip that lever and throw that up. Okay, let's got that in. Next item to be installed is going to be the pinion and the main bearing. And of course that's not going to want to fit either because of the paint. Fortunately, that's a nice sharp screwdriver on the edges. Okay, we're going to slide the pinion in with the bearing. And let's go ahead and let the pinion fall all the way through. We'll take it out the back side. And let's go ahead and help this bearing get down in there. All right, now I'm just going to set this block of wood, or it's actually a wooden brush. I'm going to set that up over here. Then we're going to tap that bearing down. There we go. Look behind it, make sure the bearing's seated all the way. Let's go ahead, slide the pin. Now, the bearing wants to just fall out. Of course it does. There we go. Okay. Let's go ahead and put the bearing retainer in. And install its 2 screws. Okay. I'll go ahead and grease this pinion. We'll slide it in. We'll put this spacer on. On top of that, we'll go the anti-reverse ratchet. Onto the reverse ratchet goes the anti-reverse dog, and we'll spin that around and get it lined up on this side over here like that, and put the screw in. There we go. Now, there's our anti-reverse. You can see how it works. These fingers on this pinch right here so that when this rotates, like so, it will just slide past it. But when you reverse it, it catches and that hooks in there. Now the anti-reverse override flips this cam lever or eccentric over like that, and now it can't, the dog can't grab hold. Okay, we'll flip this back, and let's go ahead and put the rotor on. Put the rotor locking plate in place. Make sure it drops down in there. And then we'll go ahead and tighten down the nut. Okay, now if this is all installed correctly, as we rotate this, yep, that's exactly what's supposed to happen. Okay, trip the bail. As this rotates around, it hits that trip lever and trips the bail. And that should be virtually silent, and it is. Now when I got this, it had a bearing in it that rattled horribly. I think it was this one. And it was frozen at first. I did manage to free it up. When I got this, that's one of the reasons I got this real cheap, is it was frozen. It wouldn't return. I managed to get that bearing broke loose and pulled it all apart. I replaced the two bearings in it, and it's just as sweet as can be now. So the next thing we're going to do is install the the oscillation gear. Okay, we're greasing every part of the oscillation gear because the bottom rides in here like this. The top rides up here with the oscillation block riding on top of it. So we'll set that into place like so. Get it to drop over top of the post. Then we'll take our oscillation block, make sure it's clean, and we'll grease it as well. And now what I'm going to do, I left these screws on here. We're going to back these out a bit, like that. That way we can hopefully get the axle to go back in there without having to take this off all the way. And we slide the oscillation block down over top of that post. Next part to be installed is going to be the main gear, and we're going to grease it. And install it right down through here. Make sure that it engages into the pinion gear. Now we don't want to rotate this around because it'll move our oscillation block, and we're not ready for that yet. Okay. Now we've got our axle, and we're going to take our axle and oil it. And we're going to slide it into the pinion, slide it down through here and rotate it around a little bit so it's getting lubrication inside there. Okay, and then hopefully I've got this loose enough that we can get it to slide inside this block. Almost there. There we go. And then we find the flat on that axle and get it to slide in there. Okay. Then we start to rotate this around, tightening these down. And you got to find the flat. Because if you don't find the flat and it doesn't go into that flat, all you're going to do is bend this plate. But there is a cutout on that axle shaft, and that plate needs to go inside that cutout. And if we've got that correct, we should be able to rotate this. Look at that. Everything's spinning as it should. Let's go back to this side over here, and we'll clean out some more paint out of the edge here so that our bearing will fit. Now these bearings all slid right in there prior to paint. So the paint is what, and that epoxy paint is some tough stuff. Okay, and I'm gonna tap that on in. There we go, that's got the bearing, sealed bearing in, all the way down. And let's go ahead and put the bearing retainer on. go. And this is where we'll have to decide if we need to shim this or not. We put all this together and see how it fits. Okay. There we go. And let's put the 2 screws in. 3 screws. All right. Let's go ahead and screw the handle on. Let's see if it fits tight. That feels good. Is there any in and out motion? There's not. There's no grumble. Okay. Let's get back over here and let's take the drag washers out. Okay. It's got the clip out. These are kind of corroded in there. Wow. Well, that's not a good sign. There's a lot of saltwater corrosion in there. Well, that moved that time. Okay. And I got out that HT100. And I don't know if you can see how corroded this is inside, but it's going to take a lot to get all this out. So I'm getting ready to get to work with a Dremel tool and see if I can't clean this up. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by putting this Dremel tool down inside there, like that, firing it up and see if I can't get this thing start getting cleaned up. To tell you the truth, I really thought I was going to end up having to order some parts when I started taking this one apart. But it's going to be okay. I'm going to put a little grease in here to help keep that from happening again. And we're going to use some Cow's Universal Drag Grease on these HT100s. And I've cleaned them up real good. And we're going to be able to clean them up, wipe them down, and put them back in. And the stainless steel washers, they're in great shape once we got cleaned all the guck off of them. Okay, first goes the HT100, then goes the keyed washer, stainless steel, then another HT100, then goes that hex washer. On top of that goes the next HT100, and then goes the last keyed washer. And then on top of that goes the locking ring. Come on, get in there. Okay, we're gonna slide that in, snap it down in there. There we go. Gonna wipe the excess grease off. And we're gonna come underneath and clean this up real quick. This looks like it's set for a long time, to the point that the grease ran down off of the parts and down over into the side, and then it just congealed there. All right, I'd say that looks pretty good. And we're going to take a cotton swab and clean that right in here real quick. Okay. Okay, let's put the spool on. And we are not getting a click. There it goes. There it goes. I think it needs to be oiled. Let's put some oil on there. And put some on the spring. Help protect it. And let's throw this back in and try it again. There. There we go. Okay. Now, we'll wipe down the drag washer nut. Tighten it down. And we need to clean it up under there a little bit. Move that up out of the way. And there we have the Penn. Let's back this out. The Penn .450 SS for skirted spool. It's got new bearings all the way around. I'm going to load it up with some 30-pound drag braid, and let's try the anti-reverse override. That works fine. Not bad for a reel that was locked up with frozen bearings. There we go. And this one, folks, is going to my boat. Yep. Let's go ahead. Oh. Okay. Let's back this off. Don't believe it'll come all the way off. I will. How about that? In that case, we're going to wipe this off good. All right. give that a shot of oil. And let's put it back in. All right, let's put a shot of oil down the torpedo handle. There we go. Okay, it sounds like the rotor is rubbing ever so slightly. And it could be that extra thick paint I put on there. Could be just rubbing on the edge of that. It's certainly not providing any friction that I can feel. All right. So, there you have the Spinfisher first generation. No, this is not first generation. This is a Spinfisher. Oh, wait a minute. No. Third generation? No. Second generation. Yeah, this is the Spinfisher second generation. The SSG is the third generation, I believe. But anyway, there you have the Penn 450 SS, and I believe it's third generation. And it's getting ready to get loaded up with some braid and head out to my boat. And I see that I have still got fishing line on the spool. Now I don't. There we go. And I hope you liked the video. If you did, hit the like button. If you didn't, hit the dislike button. Tell me what you didn't like about it. For now, that's Rick Stivers of YoungMartin'sReels, signing out.